The Hopi's Blue Kachina and Red Kachina prophecy, also known by the Lakota and other natives as the Blue Star and Red Star prophecy. The Great Purifier, as they called it. The Great Purifier being a time when Mother Earth cleanses the earth of all its evils and all the evil doings. Is that time approaching? The great prophet Nostradamus mentioned in his century quatrains that a great king of terror will fall from the sky. This is also referred to in the Holy Bible. So is this time coming, my friends? Whether we want it to or not, is the Hopi's Blue Star and Red Star Kachina on our doorsteps right now? And will it complete its journey of devastation before the end of our current decade? Maybe perhaps at the very end of our current decade. The Hopi's Blue Kachina and Red Kachina prophecy would occur soon after the Great Awakening of humanity. A Great Awakening that we are already seeing and have been seeing for quite some time. So how long before the Blue Star Kachina arrives? And what exactly is the Blue Star Kachina versus the Red Star Kachina, which is also referred to as the twins who appear in the skies? Also, the warnings that come directly from the Holy Bible in the book of Revelation. Prophecies that perfectly align with Nostradamus, Edgar Cayce, and even have been left behind for us by the ancient Sumerians in Mesopotamia thousands of years ago. Some even say that this warning was left to us by the ancient Aztecs, the Mayans, and even the Egyptians warned us of this coming doom, the time of the Hopi's
Great Purifier.
The enormous planet goes by many names. To the Hopi people, it is called the Red Kachina. To the Lakota and other native tribes, the big planet goes by the Red Star. Some say it is referred to in the Holy Bible as wormwood, which I debate the fact that wormwood in the Holy Bible would actually fulfill the first part of the Hopi's prophecy, referring to the Blue Kachina, or the Blue Star. Even the ancient Egyptians and the Hebrews referred to this enormous planet, and they called it the Destroyer. The red planet is also known as Herculebus. We can actually track this all the way back to the ancient Sumerians, who allegedly referred to the great enormous planet as Nibiru. Nibiru meaning crossing. So therefore, in ancient Sumerian, even a bridge would be referred to as a Nibiru, a crossing. I will talk more about the ancient Sumerians later in this video. So what exactly does the Hopi prophecy say about the Red Star, Blue Star Kachina? You're probably asking yourself that exact question. The Hopi prophecy begins by stating, when the Blue Star Kachina makes its appearance in the heavens, the fifth world will emerge. This will be the day of purification. It will come when the Sequasaha, the Blue Kachina, dances in the plaza and removes his mask. In the final day, we will look up in the heavens and we will witness the return of the two brothers who have helped to create this world in the birthing time. Poganghua is the guardian of the North Pole, and his brother is the guardian of the South Pole. In the final days, the Blue Star Kachina will come to be with his nephews, and they will return the Earth to its natural rotation. Right here, we can instantly identify very clearly what the Hopi elders were trying to warn us of. They were warning us of an actual rotation or flipping of the poles, an actual pole shift. An actual pole shift that was also predicted by the late Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, in his prophecies and visions of the future. The Hopi prophecy goes on to say, the twins will be seen in our northwestern skies, and they will come to visit in their flying shields to see who have still remembered the original teachings. They will bring many of their star family with them in the final days. So who exactly are the Hopi elders referring to when they say that they will come? Could they actually be what the ancient Sumerians told us, the Anunnaki people? The Anunnaki people who are said to have seeded us here on the earth? The same Anunnaki or aliens that come from the big red planet, Nibiru? Could these be at all related? And flying shields? Flying shield sounds very much like a flying disc or a UFO. Wouldn't you agree? The Hopi prophecy also states that they will bring many of their star family in the final days. Are we in those final days or heading towards those final days now? Because we're certainly seeing an awful lot of flying shields in the skies globally. More UFO reports and UFO stories than we've ever seen before. So are we in those final days? Now listen what the scripture tells us in the Holy Bible from Matthew chapter 24 verses 30 and 31. Then will appear a sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then all of the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. The Hopi natives tell us that they are going to come in their flying shields, while the Holy Bible tells us that the Son of Man comes on clouds of heaven. The Hopi tell us that they will bring many of their star family in the final days, while the Bible tells us that he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather from the four winds. Do these not sound similar to you at all? Perhaps exactly the same, just worded completely differently? Because they were written in completely different times by completely different people interpreting the same prophecies. Bible scripture mentions the four winds, while the Hopi prophecies often refer to the four corners. Could these also be the same reference? The Hopi Kachina prophecy continues. The return of the blue Kachina, who is also known as Nagasahu, who will be the forewarning that tells us that there will soon be a new day, a new way of life, and a new world coming. They will start as fires that will burn within us. We will burn up as desires in conflict if we do not remember the original teachings and return to a peaceful way of life. Not far behind will come the Purifier, the red Kachina, who will bring the day of purification. On this day, Earth, her creatures, and all of life as we know it will be offered a chance to change forever. There will be messages that will precede the coming of the Purifier. They will leave messages to those on earth that remember the old ways. The message that will be found on living stone, through the sacred grains and even the waters. From the Purifier will issue forth a great red light. All things will change in the manner of being. Every living thing will be given the opportunity to change from the largest to the smallest living thing. Those who return to the ways given to us in the original teachings and live the natural way of life will not be touched by the coming of the Purifier. They will survive and they will build the new world, the new earth. So now could the Hopis reference to those who return to the natural ways in a peaceful way of life align perfectly with the Holy Bible and the Christians' belief that we need to return to the teachings of Jesus Christ? Sounds very similar, just worded completely differently, maybe referring to the exact same time period and the exact prophecy, but again, just worded completely differently. You be the judge and leave me your comments down below. The Kachina prophecy goes on to state that many will appear to have lost their souls in the final days. Well, lost their souls? We certainly know that there are so many that have sold their souls. The Hopi go on to say, so intense will be the nature of these changes that those who are weak in spirit will go insane, for they are nothing without spirit. Do we not already see this happening now with people losing their minds? And it appears that people are losing their minds more and more each day. And I agree totally with the Hopi that we are nothing without our connection to spirit. Your connection to spirit and the divine is absolutely the utmost important. The Hopi continue to go on warning us that only those who return to the values of the old ways will be able to find peace of mind. For in the earth they will find relief from the madness that will be all around us. Many people of this time will be empty in spirit. They will have no senpachu, no life force in their eyes. As we get close to the time of the Purifier, there will be many who walk like ghosts through their cities, through the canyons that they have constructed in their man-made mountains. They will walk like ghosts through their cities of man-made mountains. Well, we know that that's big cities like New York City, Philadelphia, and cities globally. And we're already seeing the zombie apocalypse occurring in places like Philadelphia, where the new zombie drug has people literally appearing to be spiritless, with no souls left, walking heavy-footed through the cities, while all the rest are glued to their electronic devices, again appearing like zombies because they're only glued to what they were looking at on their electronic device. Even in the Holy Bible, we have references to zombies. In Isaiah chapter 26, verse 19, it states, "Your dead shall live, their bodies shall rise." They're sure rising in places like Philadelphia with that zombie drug. So is this reference to actual real zombies like The Walking Dead or the zombie apocalypse? I know many people out there would like to believe that's the case, but I believe it's more of a metaphor. And if it's a metaphor and not a reality, then we're actually seeing that prophecy being fulfilled right now with people walking around on substances like zombies and glued to their electronic devices. The Hopi prophecy goes on to say that those who walk through these places will be very heavy in their walk. It will appear almost painful as they take each step, for they have become very disconnected from their spirit and from the earth. And after the arrival of the twins, they will begin to vanish before your eyes like smoke. So after the arrival of the twins of course meaning the red star Kachina and the blue star Kachina, but they will begin to vanish like a puff of smoke. Vanish, they? Who's they? Where are they vanishing to? Doesn't this sound to you very much like the Christians' belief in the rapture? According to the Hopi, it's actually the star people, the star brothers and sisters that return to the earth. The Hopi prophecy goes on to state, others will have great deformalities, both in their minds and upon their bodies. There will be those who walk in their body that are not from this reality. For many of the gateways that once protected us will now be opened, and there will be much confusion. Many gateways that once protected us will be opened, while those who walk in their body will not be from this reality. Doesn't this sound very similar to the belief in demon possession? Dark entities taking over the body? So in turn, we believe these people are going out committing these horrific acts, not realizing all along that it's actually a dark entity and demon that's possessing this person that's doing these horrors on our planet. Why? Because apparently these gates have opened. Are these gates, these doorways, the gates of hell? Sure seems that way. And many people believe that CERN over there in Switzerland is doing exactly that with their God particle manipulation. They're trying and attempting, and maybe they succeeded in opening some of the portals and gateways to hell. In accordance to prophecy, and again, the Holy Bible, we know the Holy Bible refers to demon possessions and entities and even gateways that are gateway portals to evil demonic energies. From the book of Matthew, chapter 12, verse 22, they brought him a demon-possessed man who was blind and mute, and Jesus healed him so that he could both talk and see. The Hopi prophecy concludes by stating something again that we are likely seeing right now. Confusion between the sexes, the children and their elders. Life will get very perverted, and there will be very little social order in these times. Many will ask for the mountains themselves to fall upon them and end their misery. Once again, this sounds exactly what's happening right now globally. Confusion between the sexes. between children, between their elders. This seems to be exactly the narrative that's even being pushed by the globalist agenda. Some folks like to relate the Holy Bible's reference to wormwood as being connected to the Hopi's Red Star, Blue Star, Kachina prophecy, along with other prophecies like Nostradamus, Edgar Cayce, and other references from the Holy Bible. From the Holy Bible's Book of Revelation, chapter 8, verses 10 and 11. The third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from the sky on a third of the rivers and the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters turned bitter, and many people perished from the waters that had become bitter. Now, in accordance to Wikipedia, which we know we can wholeheartedly trust 100%, it states, a number of Bible scholars consider the term wormwood to be a purely symbolic representation of the bitterness that will fill the earth during these troubled times, noting that the plant for which wormwood is named, or mugwort, the herb which happens to be very bitter. So I beg to differ with the scholars in Wikipedia, because the Holy Bible clearly states that like a blazing torch it will fall from the sky. We got to go back to the time when the Holy Bible was written thousands of years ago. They used candles and torches for light. So they're explaining things in the way that was balanced out for their way of living in that time period. You drop a torch from a cliff, what's it going to look like? It's going to have a blue light behind it with a flaming ball, correct? Well, a comet would appear the same exact way. If it was close enough to the Earth, we would see a blue light behind it with a ball of fire. This could also be the case with a meteor or an asteroid as well. So which one could it be? It's definitely not just a metaphor, I can assure you that. Interesting enough, we have these two depictions that clearly show the prophecy in Wormwood and how they interpreted it many years ago, starting with this one by Anonymous from the 13th century. This particular print is actually titled Douche Apocalypse. You see clearly what appears to be a sun falling from the sky as a huge wave is washing away the people, and the angel of death blows his trumpet. And next we have this one from 1909 titled Old Believer. This shows what appears to be a star falling from the sky. So now if we move on to chapter 8, the book of Revelation from the Holy Bible, in verse 12, it states, the fourth angel sounded his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them turned black. A third of the day was without light, and also a third of the night. So what could it actually be that would block out 1/3 of the sun, 1/3 of the moon, making it appear to be struck? Obviously, from this verse, we can see that there's going to be something that blacks out part of the sun, the moon, and the stars. Therefore, a very large part of our skies would have to be taken up for a very good long period of time. So, could this at all be the Hopi's Red Star Kachina? Could it be Bill Gates blocking out the sun? I very likely doubt it. It's definitely the Red Star Kachina coming into our solar system and blocking out a third of everything. Edgar Cayce was an American psychic who was known as the Sleeping Prophet. Cayce had many predictions and prophecies, some which already came into fruition. In the early 1930s, Cayce was asked the following question: what great change, or the beginning of what change, if any, is to take place on the earth in the year 2000 to 2001 AD? Cayce's answer was simple: when the poles shift, a new cycle begins. So are those poles shifting? Because some experts claim that the poles have been shifting by a certain percentage every year, and that percentage is increasing. So was Cayce right, or was he completely wrong? Although his prophecies do align with other prophecies. On a separate occasion in the year 1934, while Edgar Cayce was in his sleeping prophet mode, he channeled through the following: there will be the upheavals in the Arctic and in the Antarctica that will make for the eruption of volcanoes in the torrid areas, and there will be shifting then of the poles. Not long ago, I had visions and made predictions of volcanic activity and multiple volcanoes erupting at the same time in Antarctica. So are we approaching that time? Now, some of my predictions take 2 to 3 years to come into fruition, and that was about a year ago I made that prediction. So are we 2 years away from this occurring? Stay tuned, because I'm going to tell you the exact date that I believe this is all going to happen. On January 19th, 1934, again during a channeling session from the sleeping prophet Edgar Cayce, he stated the following: "The earth will be broken up in the western portion of America. The greater portion of Japan must go into the sea. The upper portion of Europe will be changed as in the twinkling of an eye. Land will appear off the east coast of America. There will be upheavals in the Arctic and in the Antarctica, where there will be great eruptions of volcanoes in torrid areas. There will be a shifting then of the poles, so that where there has been those of a frigid or the semi-tropical will become more tropical, and moss and fern will grow. And these will begin in the periods of 1958 to 1998, when these will be proclaimed as the periods when his light will be seen again in the clouds." Cayce says that his light will shine again through the clouds, but who is his light? Is that the light of Jesus Christ? Is that what the Christians mean when Jesus will come down on a cloud from the heavens? Or does this relate to the Hopi prophecy and the great red light that we will all witness, that the Hopi tell us about in that prophecy? What do you think? I want to know what your comments are down below. We also have to argue the point which Cayce mentioned, the period of 1958 to 1998, a time when tropical areas or non-tropical areas would become tropical. So have we witnessed this? Again, or is Cayce off by a couple decades? He might just be right on, actually. Now we turn to one of the most famous prophets of our time, the late Nostradamus. So what exactly did Nostradamus say in his century quatrain predictions that could potentially align perfectly with the Hopi's blue star, red star Kachina prophecy, and even wormwood out of the Holy Bible? Nostradamus did predict that there would be a great war that humanity is currently worried is on our doorsteps this current moment. And each and every day, it's looking more likely to be the case. In one of Nostradamus' quatrains, he stated, "After great trouble for humanity, a greater one is prepared. The great mover renews the ages." So Nostradamus is basically saying that after the third great conflict amongst nations, humanity would face an even greater conflict. A greater conflict in which he referred to as the great mover. The great mover that renews the ages. Does this not all sound very familiar to you? It's exactly the same thing as the Hopi referred to as the great purifier. A great mover certainly is predicting an event in which something great and massive is going to move. But move what exactly? Perhaps the North Pole and the South Pole, as Edgar Cayce also predicted in his prophecies? In Nostradamus' century quatrain number 1, verse 69, he states the following: "The great mountain, 7 stadia round, after peace, war, famine, flooding, it will spread far, drowning great countries, even antiquities, and their mighty foundations." So Nostradamus clearly stated in this quatrain prediction that something the size of 7 stadia was going to head towards our planet. 7 stadia is actually equivalent to just over a half a mile in distance, approximately 3,600 feet. So something that size splashing down into our ocean, causing a tsunami, according to Nostradamus, a tsunami that's going to wash away great countries and even antiquities. Antiquities perhaps like the Great Pyramid in ancient Egypt. All of this sounds extremely similar to the Holy Bible's version of the prophecy of wormwood. Wormwood hitting the oceans, poisoning 1/3 of the waters. In addition, once again, this points us directly to the Hopi's blue star Kachina prophecy. So could a meteor, perhaps several meteors that are following behind the tail of a comet, crash into our planet Earth? Perhaps even the meteor itself could crash into the planet Earth. But in accordance to Nostradamus, that meteor would have to be 3,671 feet in width, which is the same as 7 stadia. Here's a little bit more of Nostradamus' prophecy.
After great human tragedy, even greater approaches. The great motor of the ages starts an age anew. It rains blood, milk, famine, iron, and plague. In the sky, running fire, sparks long trailing. After this has endured for a long time, there will be renewed another reign, a golden age.
I know that some folks would like to have you believe that the red planet Nibiru, the great purifier, is going to crash directly into our planet, turning our planet into space dust and asteroids. But I do assure you this is not quite the case at all. We also have the prophecies of Saint Hildegard, prophecies that I was actually unaware of until I was doing the research for this video. Saint Hildegard was born in the year 1098 AD, long before the creation of the United States of America. Saint Hildegard's creepy predictions, creepy only because they match up perfectly with all the rest of them, which makes it even creepier, go on to say the following. Before the comet comes, many nations, the good accepted, will be scoured with want and famine. The great nation in the ocean that is inhabited by the people of different tribes in descent by an earthquake, storm, and tidal waves will be devastated. It will be divided and in great part submerged. The nation will also have many misfortunes at sea and lose its colonies in the east through a tiger and a lion. The comet, by its tremendous pressure, will force much of the ocean and flood many countries, causing much want and many plagues. All coastal cities will be fearful, and many of them will be destroyed by tidal waves, and most living creatures will be killed, and even those who escape will die from horrible disease. From in none of these cities does a person live according to the laws of God. In none of these cities does a person live in accordance to the laws of God. Was Saint Hildegard actually referring to living by the teachings of Jesus Christ? Or even the Hopi's prophecy and the teachings of going back to the original ancient teachings of the Hopi elders? They sound very similar, if not exactly the same, just worded differently from different time periods. So is the Hopi prophecy and the red star Kachina actually connected directly to the alleged claims of a star by the name of Nibiru? And how exactly can we snap together the pieces of this puzzle? Well, we can start by going to Zecharia Sitchin. Zecharia Sitchin wrote in his book, The 12th Planet, that Nibiru comes from the ancient Sumerians in writings and artifacts left behind by the ancient Sumerian people. The core premise that Sitchin made in some of his writings is that there is a 10th planet, including Pluto, in our solar system with an elliptical orbit of about 3,600 years. The people from Nibiru, also referred to as the Anunnaki people, came to the Earth in search for gold, in which they did discover so that they could repair their own atmosphere and save their own planet. Once they began mining the gold, they realized how much painstaking work was involved. So in turn, they realized that the work involved was too challenging and decided to manipulate their DNA with the DNA of an ape to create the human race to mine gold for them. Now, I could do a whole lot of videos on just the Anunnaki people alone. I'll save that for another time. I want to stay focused on the Hopi Kachina prophecy right now. And also track the whole story of the Anunnaki people back to parts of the Bible and the history of the Nephilim, the giants that were washed off the planet by the Great Flood. But again, I'll save all those for another video in the future. Much of the knowledge of these ancient Sumerian people was actually taught to them by who they claimed were the Anunnaki people. The word Anunnaki actually meaning those who come from heaven to the earth. Now, the Hopi people make reference to the star people, the star brothers and star sisters who came down and brought them knowledge in the ancient teachings. Do these not sound again exactly the same? The Anunnaki people even taught the ancient Sumerians the color and size of the planets Neptune and Uranus. How would they know that without modern day telescopes? So is there any evidence out there that actually points to the truth of future pole shift and the fulfillment of these prophecies? Well, there is more evidence, of course.
But today, scientists from the California Institute of Technology have announced that they finally have solid evidence for a planet X, a true ninth planet on the edge of our solar system.
While the ninth planet has not officially or technically been spotted yet, it is believed to be far beyond the orbit of Pluto, roughly the size of Neptune, with a mass 10 times that of Earth.
Staff writer for the Scientific American, Michael Lemonick, has written an article in the upcoming issue and is here to tell us more about this incredible discovery. Hi, Michael.
Hi.
So how did this discovery come about?
It came about because there are things out there, little icy objects that are orbiting in a funny way, and nobody was quite sure why. It seemed like there might be something with gravity pulling on them, but nobody quite understood. And finally, these scientists that you talked about took a really hard look at it, did simulations, calculations, and they came up with the explanation. It probably is this giant planet.
I think I read somewhere it orbits the sun every 10,000 to 20,000 years.
Right.
Is that why no one has seen it to this point?
No, that's not why. It's because it's so dim. It's so far away that even though it's big, it's very, very dim and it'll be very tough to spot with a telescope.
That's incredible. And so there was a thought at one point from scientists that when they thought that there was something beyond Pluto, that it might have been all the massive objects floating in the Kuiper Belt, but it's not.
Right, so all those objects are out there and they have a lot of mass, and originally the scientists said, look, a planet is such a crazy idea, maybe it's the Kuiper Belt itself that's pulling it on itself and making these orbits look funny. And they ran simulations and they tried to make that work and it didn't work. It just didn't work. There's not enough stuff out there.
Really incredible. And when we talk about the mass of this planet X, this ninth planet being 10 times that of Earth, for those who are not scientists, what does that really mean, the mass of a planet versus Earth's mass?
Well, if you could put it on a scale, how much it would weigh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really it. And so it's bigger, it's bulkier, it's got more heft, it's got more gravity. It's this huge elephant in the living room, except we didn't know it was there.
In the early 1960s, Chan Thomas wrote a book titled The Adam and Eve Story and attempted to have it published by the Emerson House in Los Angeles, California. However, before actually being published, the CIA censored his book for 50 years. Thomas later published a shorter version of his original book in 1993 through the Bengal Tiger Press. Coincidence theorists filed an FOIA lawsuit against the CIA, ordering them to release the book. In 2013, the CIA released a alleged shorter version of the original book. So what was it exactly that the CIA didn't want anybody to know that Chan wrote about in his book? The Adam and Eve story actually tells a grim tale of a pole shift of our planet, bringing about major flooding, volcanic activity, earthquakes, and so on. So was the CIA just trying to prevent a widespread panic of sorts? While at the same time, the CIA is using our hard-earned taxpayer dollars to build underground bunkers and underground cities. Billionaires are doing the same exact thing. Do they know something that we don't know? Who gets to stay in their underground city that was built with our money? Do you have a ticket to get in? Because I certainly don't have a golden ticket. I would like to know if you happen to have one of those golden tickets. And if you happen to miss my video, Billionaire Bunkers, and you want to know where the safe zones are to live and know a little bit more about these underground cities, check out that video. I'll leave a link up above. Here is some of what is said in the book, The Adam and Eve Story.
With a rumble so low as to be inaudible, then fueling into a thundering roar, the earthquake starts. Only it's not like any earthquake in history. In California, mountains shake like ferns in a breeze. A mighty Pacific rears back and piles up into a mountain of seawater more than 2 miles high, then starts its race eastward. The wind attacks, shredding everything in supersonic bombardment. The mountain of Pacific seawater follows the wind eastward, burying Los Angeles and San Francisco as if they were but grains of sand. Across the continent, The 1,000-mile-per-hour wind wreaks unholy vengeance everywhere, merciless. In many places, the Earth's molten sublayer breaks through and spreads a sea of white-hot liquid fire. In a fraction of a day, all vestiges of civilization are gone, and the great cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Dallas, New York, Boston, are nothing but legends. Barely a stone is left where millions walked just a few hours ago. South America finds the Andes not high enough to stop the violence. In less than a day, the entire continent is burned by molten earth fire, buried under miles of violent seas, then turned into a frozen hell. Everything freezes. Man, beast, plant, and mud in less than 4 hours. Corals are shrunken and heaved even higher when the wall of seawater strikes. Western Africa and the sands of the Sahara vanish. The fury marches on for 6 days. During the 6th day, the ocean starts to settle. The Bay of Bengal Basin just east of India is now at the North Pole. The Pacific Ocean just west of Peru is at the South Pole. New ice caps begin to form in the new polar areas. Greenland and Antarctica, now rotating equatorially, emerge with verdant tropical foliage. The Atlantic covered by unbelievable amounts of mud. Of San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, and Boston, not a trace is left. The cataclysm has done its work and drives the pitiful few who survive into a new Stone Age. We join Noah, Adam and Eve, Atlantis, Mu, and Olympus. And Jesus joins Osiris, Tahura, Zeus, and Vishnu.
Next, we have the discovery of Herculebus, and the gifted astronomer who discovered it, Carlos Ferrada. Ferrada was a Chilean scientist, geologist, and astronomer born in 1909 and happened to die on September 11, 2001. I thought that was kind of interesting. He spent 59 years researching celestial bodies, especially Herculebus, and predicting with stunning precision geological activity such as the Chile earthquake in 1939. Carlos predicted the quake within 4 hours of the actual quake hitting. Mr. Ferrada first discovered this object by accident with his telescope. He continued researching Herculebus and the coming effects of the presence of this body as it begins to have vibrational interaction with our solar system and specifically with the planet Earth. Ferrada referred to Herculebus as a comet planet, mainly because it had a mass of a giant planet with a tail that followed behind. In 1999, at the age of 90, Carlos Ferrada actually broke his silence and did an interview. In this interview, he made many alarming statements about the passing of the celestial body Herculebus. This is what he had to say. Soon, events will take place that will allow Herculebus to be seen with the naked eye. This body will not go unnoticed and everyone will see it.
Este cuerpo no va a pasar desapercibido, todo el mundo lo va a ver.
An event in the skies that everybody will be able to see? Once again, we see a pattern here. Because the Holy Bible and Jesus Christ tells us that there will be events in the sky that everybody will see. And the Hopi once again say the same exact thing.
Y va a haber gran confusión, más que confusión. Y le van a dar un sinnúmero de interpretaciones.
Ferrada goes on to say in his interview that there will be a lot of confusion, more than just confusion, and they will give many interpretations about it. Astronomers will say that they will be seeing Mars or some other planet, but in reality, they're seeing Herculebus, Nibiru, the red star Kachina.
¿Qué consecuencias sobre nuestro planeta? Las más terroríficas. Luego, cada cual arrégleselas como pueda. He calculado 3 puntos triangulados de alta sismicidad que se aproximan. El norte de la costa del Mediterráneo, Francia y España. La costa sur del Pacífico, de Valparaíso a Arequipa. Y Java, Sumatra y Borneo. 3 puntos. Estos puntos van a ser terremotos de carácter volcánico.
Also like Casey, Ferrata claims that the last arrival of Herculebus 13,000 years ago was what wiped out the ancient continent of Atlantis, Mu, and Lemuria.
El gran campo gravitacional que trae ese astro nuevo, que hace 13.000 años que no penetraba y que 13.000 años atrás fue en los tiempos de la Atlántida perdida, tiene resonancia y efectos que a los reflejos, que a la debilidad. Queda el gran cambio.
Like Edgar Casey and even myself, Carlos Ferrata claims that this would bring about a shifting of the poles.
Ese gran cambio, el cual usted viene estudiando desde 1940, ¿verdad? Que viene estudiando ese astro. Van 59 años de documentación. Ese gran cambio es humano, además es a la Tierra, porque indica un cambio de polos.
Es geofísico y humano.
Geofísico y humano. Y se habla de que va a haber un cambio de los polos magnéticos de la Tierra.
Son tantas las cosas que lamentable la humanidad no está preparada. El cambio viene. La destrucción viene. Y más que nada afectará a la humanidad en su existencia, en su producción, en su subsistencia misma.
To make matters even creepier, and to help us align this perfectly once again with the Hopi's red star Kachina, Ferrata describes Herculebus as a red comet planet, which presents an elliptical orbit of a comet with a great mass like a planet. Basically, a planet with a tail. This alone connects Ferrata's red comet planet directly to the Hopi's red star Kachina prophecy. We even have here what people believe to be a crop circle that is actually a warning of an outside influence coming into our solar system. I want to know what you think, so please let me know in the comments below, and thank you for giving me some love by clicking that like button. Now we come to the most important question of all. Which comet exactly is it that the Hopi people were talking about in the blue star Kachina prophecy? We have so many comets coming in and out of our solar system in our night skies, so it would be nearly impossible to guess which comet it could actually be that would follow the red star Kachina. Or is it very possible for us to point directly to the comet that would initiate the Hopi prophecy? We are all familiar with the Mayan and Aztec calendar and prophecy that was completely twisted out of context back in 2012. That December 21st, 2012, they told us was going to be the end of times. A prophecy, again, that was completely twisted out of context and used by the elite to, of course, feed fearful energies to their demon gods. The Aztecs actually warned that December 21st, 2012 would be a rare alignment of planets, which actually did occur, marking off the beginning of the Earth's next huge cycle, and eventually the shifting of the poles. We know already that the poles are shifting 37 miles per year. So it's been happening since 2012, maybe even sooner. So did the Aztecs know something that we didn't? That again, the elite took completely out of context? If we look back to the year 2012 and the time that has passed since, we can clearly see that the Aztecs and Mayans were onto something, because the poles are shifting each and every year. And that's increasing to an alarming rate that has got scientists and experts very concerned. So did the Mayans know something and the Aztecs that we didn't? Obviously they have, because if we also look back to 2012 at the climate and the weather, our weather patterns with floods, earthquakes, volcanic activity, and so forth is just increasing each and every year, as is the temperature on our planet as well. But they will tell us that it's the climate that's changing, which of course it obviously is, not for the reasons that we're being taught that it is. We should also all be able to agree that since 2012, humanity has gone through some amazing cycles and great awakenings. Not only that, when the Aquarian Age arrived on the date predicted by the Aztecs and the Mayans, we can clearly see the darkness being poured out into the light. That is exactly what the Aquarian energy does. Aquarius pours the dark into the light to bring balance back to the planet. But of course, not until the whole planet goes completely out of balance, in the way of a pole shift. Hollywood has warned us in movies like The Last Day, or better yet, in the movie Don't Look Up. It will actually be the debris field that follows behind the comet, or the blue star, and perhaps the red star too, that actually come down barreling towards planet Earth. Some won't make it through the atmosphere without burning up first, but there will be those last few, the fallen angels that do crash down to the Earth, that make it appear like we're being bombed while at the same time fulfilling the prophecy of Wormwood in the book of Revelation. Now this brings us back to the question of what comet or asteroid could be coming concerningly close to our planet in the future. Is there one? Do we know of one? Well, we know of Herculebus because Carlos Ferrata told us all about it. And I know the name of that comet. Asteroid 99942 is its number, and it is also known as Apophis, the ancient god of death and destruction. The asteroid 99942 in numerology happens to add up to the number 33, of course. 33 is a sacred number to the Freemasons and secret societies. 33 was also the number of Jesus Christ. It was also the age that Jesus was crucified for our sins. As you know, there's absolutely no coincidences whatsoever. So if 33 identifies Jesus and also identifies this comet, would that be what's coming and returning back to our planet Earth? What I also find interesting is the first three numbers, which happens to be 3 nines. The 3 nines in numerology is often referred to as an angel number. It is associated with completions and endings. Interesting, huh? It gets even more interesting. The number 42 that follows the triple nines happens to be referred to in the Bible as a time period of 42 months in which the Antichrist rules over the planet Earth. From Revelation 11:2, they will trample upon the holy city for 42 months. From the novel The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, the number 42 refers to life, the meaning of life, universe, and everything. So now together we have the angelic combination of the nines referring to completions and endings, while 42 points to life and everything. So is this going to bring about the ending of life? The ending of everything? To make matters even more creepier, not only do we have the numerology combination of comet number 99942 telling a story, they also deemed the comet the name Apophis. Apophis after the ancient culture representing the god of death and destruction. What less than smart human being would name a comet that's coming uncomfortably close to our planet after a god of destruction, while also adding onto it creepy number combinations that tell a story? Are they not right in our faces with telling us what's going to happen without actually telling us what's going to happen? The ancient Egyptian god Apophis. Apophis wasn't actually worshipped by the ancient Egyptian people like other gods and goddesses. However, there are many tales that tell the story of Apophis in ancient Egyptian culture. One of those stories is that Apophis would work his efforts towards destroying the sun god Ra and return order to chaos. Apophis is associated with earthquakes, thunder, darkness, storms, and death, and is sometimes linked to the ancient Egyptian god Set, who is also associated with chaos, disorder, storms, and darkness. Ancient Egyptian priests would engage in rituals to protect the sun god Ra and destroy Apophis. The ancient Egyptians believed that all nature was imbued with divinity, And this, of course, included the sun, which gave life. Eclipses and cloudy days were concerning because it was thought that the sun god was having problems bringing his ship back up into the sky. The cause of these problems was always blamed on Apophis, who had somehow gotten the better of the gods aboard the ship of Ra. Think about this for a moment. 13,000 years ago, the people of the earth were crucified. They were crucified when Nibiru came into our solar system. 7 days later, the new earth was born. The 7 days of creation. Again, we have very strong similarities here. So when exactly is Apophis going to come into our solar system where we're all going to be able to see it? Well, it's a horror story, so of course it's got to play out on Friday the 13th. Friday, April 13th, 2029. Apophis will actually make 2 separate close calls to the planet Earth. First, on that date, Friday, April 13th, 2029, and the second, 7 years later in the year 2036. So could this actually be the 7 years of tribulation spoken about in the book of Revelation? Or does tribulation come before the fulfillment of the Hopi prophecy or the Kachina prophecy? Perhaps we're in tribulation right now because we're less than 6 years away from Apophis showing up in our skies. And everybody's going to see it. So technically, they tell us that there is absolutely no scientific evidence whatsoever of an existence of a planet by the name of Nibiru, Planet X, but we do have evidence of Herculebus. So could they at all be the same? They also tell us that there's absolutely no evidence that such an event has ever occurred on our planet in the past. Whether it be 3,600 years or 13,000 years ago, they deny it all. We all heard the stories of the ancient civilization of Atlantis, the lost continent of Atlantis, Mu, Lemuria, but they tell us that's all fantasy stories, that they don't exist. Even though the Holy Bible tells us the story of the Great Flood, which wiped out the Nephilim being the giant people. Again, they tell us that's a myth and fantasy too. So are you telling us some of the Bible's fantasy and some of it's reality? Every tribe and every culture and ancient culture out there tells the same story of a great flood that wiped out the planet. And many of the same cultures tell the same story that we are in the 4th world and about to give birth to the 5th world, the Golden Age. Think about this for a moment. Just a thought that what if the return of the Son of Man was actually the return of the planet Nibiru? And the actual fulfillment of the Hopi prophecies and all other prophecies that we talked about here today. Hypothetically speaking, of course. And what if the fallen angels were actually the meteor field surrounding the planet Nibiru that causes some of them to fall to the earth like angels being thrown from the heavens? Could be, just again, hypothetically speaking, of course. Not that I believe that this is the case, by no means whatsoever. I'm simply just analyzing all the potential possibilities here, as you should as well. We should all analyze and question absolutely everything, while at the same time leaving our beliefs and our ego aside, so that we can be more open to the possibilities that we would have never previously believed to be possible, only to find out later that that possibility becomes a true reality. Something certainly to think much deeper about. Something else to think about and consider here is that the Hopi elders tell a story that the star brothers and star sisters are going to come down from the stars, taking them off the earth prior to the earth's catastrophic shift. They come back to the earth when everything settles and they spread out over the four corners. Does this not at all sound familiar to the Holy Bible and those who believe that they are going to be saved from the horrors of the earth prior to the return of our Son, Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior, in an event deemed the rapture? Again, sounds very similar. Snoops and every other fact checker out there will deny the existence of the Hopi's twins, the blue star Kachina and the red star Kachina, therefore basically calling the Hopi people and many other prophecies as being false information from false prophets. Unfortunately, folks forget that a false prophet, in accordance to the Holy Bible, is one who leads people away from the true teachings of Jesus Christ. Not at all connected to psychics or people predicting future events, unless that person making those predictions were to deny the existence of Jesus Christ. Therefore, the term is just something once again being taken completely out of context and used as a term to debunk anyone and anything that others do not agree with. Another thing we need to take into account is the fact that we know our climate is changing. The weather is increasing and we have all these major events that keep increasing every year. But what most people don't know is that the climate is changing on Mars, Jupiter, and every other planet in our solar system. So how is it that the climates are changing on other planets as well as the planet Earth? Could the cause be the planet Nibiru and all the evidence that we present here today? You be the judge and you let me know in the comments down below. So now knowing that there's plenty of evidence that points that this event is definitely coming some point in the future, and now also knowing that it could potentially be in less than 6 years that it does happen, a lot can happen in 6 years. So now that you know ahead of time, or if you did know ahead of time, that you had a short window of time to survive, would you not utilize this as a teaching opportunity for yourself? Really teaching us to learn to celebrate the blessings and miracles each and every moment of every day? Because whether it be 6 days, 6 years, or 60 years, we just never know when our time here is going to end. And therefore, we must live every moment as if it's our last moment of all. So how do we survive such an event? Do we even want to survive such an event? Do we even care? Because we can't prevent it. We have to remember what the Hopi told us in the end. And that was that the Hopi warned the only way to get through this time would be found within our hearts. Within our hearts and reuniting with our spiritual self. Getting simple and returning to living with and upon this earth in harmony with earth and all of earth's creatures. That's the only way. The old ways. The ways of the ancient elders and the Hopi people. So there you have it, my beautiful friends. After countless hours, days, and weeks of research and putting this all together for you, I learned a whole lot, and I hope that you learned a lot as well. But more than anything, I hope that you learn to celebrate life each and every day, because now we know Mother Earth is in charge, not us. And when our time's up and the good Lord calls us, we're going to go very happily and very willingly. So why fear something that we can't change or alter? Instead, celebrate the blessings and miracles each and every day, and I guarantee you will receive many more blessings and miracles. Thanks to all my supporters again who make this free content possible for everybody. Thank you for clicking that like button, and don't forget to join me every Tuesday for Tuesday's predictions updates, where we look at stories, how they relate to predictions and prophecy, new predictions each and every week. Till the next time, remember to be bold, be true, be kind, be you, because you are friggin' awesome. Have a beautiful rest of your day. I will see you in the future. Namaste. Much love.